My name is Lee Stranahan. I'm a visual effects artist and filmmaker. This is my brother Ken. He's a visual effects artist. He's a consultant. And what we're going to be focusing on today in our session is going to be a lot of the stuff that you can do with 5.0 better than you could do in previous versions. But it's also the stuff that's a little sexy, sort of hot right now, which is character animation, organic modeling, metaballs, compositing, and then we'll get on to using meta-NURBs and stuff like that. So why don't we actually start in Modeler, Ken?
Okay.
And let's just talk about something fairly basic, but that a lot of people don't use, and you might as well configure it now. The 10-key pad, you know, the numeric pad over on the side of the keyboard, that can be used to configure your different views. And just because this machine isn't configured for that, Ken might as well set it up now. And
It's already done.
Oh, you already done it?
Yeah.
Oh, you did it before? Good job.
Thank you.
Why don't you go through it again, just show everyone what you did there.
Well, let me load an object so that way I can...
Yeah.
So I just want to find something sort of interesting. So there's like, this is the hull from the Hammerhead, for instance. And again, period and comma keys, zoom in and out. You know, you can hit the G key and that'll go to any area on the screen. These are things I used all the time, basically, because this really speeds up what you're doing. So I can, you know, zoom in real quick. Basically, all the numeric keys are set up. You know, you actually have to manually set them up. And once they're set up, they're saved in the config file and everything. And to do that, you hit the control key, and then you hit one of the numeric keypads, and it sets it to that. But there's a lot of different options you can do. My basic setup right now is I've got the 5, which is the center of the numeric keypad, and I've got that set up in normal 3 views and then a perspective view, so I can rotate and see the object. I've got this one flat shaded and not smooth shaded, just because I like to look at the polygons when I'm in this full view, because I might still be working on the polygons.
And can you just real quickly show where you're setting up that 4th view? Display options.
Yeah, it's under display options, D.
Yeah.
And basically you have this will give you the different orientations. So for instance, instead of a logo view, which has the 3 views and the perspective, you can do like a face view, which just has the front face like this. And again, the way I have it set up, and I know a couple people who set it up differently, but I sort of like the way I do it just because it's easy to remember, is the number 5, which is the center box, is the centered one. And then each corresponding one is, so this corner, which is, would be 7. So I've got that one right there. This one is 1, which is that corner. This one's 3, which is that corner. And the top one is just full perspective. And then I've got a lot of specialty ones. And let's say I wanted this, instead of flat shaded, I wanted this smooth shaded.
Why do you use flat shaded there, by the way?
Because it doesn't use smoothing on the objects, and just when I'm in the 4 view, it's sort of easier for me to when I rotate the object, it's sort of easier to understand where the polygon faces are and everything.
Right.
If it's not smooth necessarily. That's just the visual thing. And then when I've got the perspective one, I've got it smooth shaded, or at least I should. See, this isn't set up right. So I go to smooth shaded.
Let's just go through these. When you go to save the view, this requester pops up, and it allows you to save with the view whether the object is centered, how much it's zoomed in, foreground or background layers, visibility, orientation, quad shape, and preview type. Let's just talk about those real quickly. Centering allows you to save whether the object is centered or not, so we'll automatically center it. Zoom factor allows you to zoom in. Now, what would you use this for? For instance, let's say you're working in a complex model, and you know you're going to constantly, you're working on this spaceship, and you're constantly going to be going back to that gun on the left-hand side. You can actually set it up, zoom in, center that part, save that view, and like on the 4 button, let's say, you hit Control 4 to save it. Then whenever you hit the 4 key, you'll go right back to that point if you've got those options selected. What Kenny's talking about is basically he's got these sort of generic ones. 5 brings him back to the main view because it's right in the middle, and then the other keys bring you to the other corners. So what he's saying is he usually doesn't save the zoom or foreground background layers because he's trying to create these generic views.
Yeah, one of the reasons I don't save center or zoom factors or foreground background is because this saves with the config, so it's the same every project.
Do you have any stuff you really want to add, Kenny? Because I want to move on because we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't have anything.
That sounds like a no. Yeah, let's just start with a real simple example here. I just want to give you the idea behind spline cage modeling. So let's just show the basic idea behind it. And the trick is, sometimes you're trying to model something organic, and this sort of curtainy mesh here, you know, the draping on the table is a good example of something that would just be loads of fun to model without splines. It would be awful, but it's very, very easy relatively to model it with it. We're going to start by just showing how we set up a basic spline mesh. And so again, he's just going to draw a simple sketch path out. And he's going to draw another one. And I just want to show you real quickly how we would connect these and how we can use spline patches. Okay, Kenny's just going through and he's pulling out the points so we have roughly an even number of points. And I would just have it so there's like 3 on each side, Ken, because it's easier. By the way, when you go and you create a sketch, you're sketching it out, then hitting the Enter key or the Make button. How does it determine how many divisions to put along there? Go to Object Options, Ken. And you notice it says Curve Division, Coarse, Medium, and Fine. That's what determines how much it breaks up those things. By the way, that same feature, the Curve Division, Coarse, Medium, and Fine, that's also what used to determine when you create text, how many divisions are along there. I personally find that coarse usually works better. It's usually better to get something coarser and then add detail to it as you need to, rather than to have a whole bunch of extra things and then go from there. But we've got a real simple thing here, 2 sketch paths, each with 3 points. And now Kenny's going to connect these. And if you were to hit the P button here, just regular P, it's going to connect those using a straight line. It's a 2-point polygon. It's a straight line. So he doesn't want to do that. We want to connect these with curves. Because the first thing you need to know is that when you're working with spline cage or spline patching, you need to have curves. So he's going to select those 2, and rather than hitting P for polygon, he's going to hit Control P. And it looks basically the same, but it's actually a curve now. That's a curve. And it would be a little easier to see if we had one other point. Kenny's doing an add point to that line. What you'll see is if he goes up and does a drag or something like that, this is in fact, it's an actual curve there. That middle point, again, it looks the same when you have 2 points, but this is an actual curve. Okay? Next he's going to do the same thing for the other 2, basically. Control P, and again, it's an actual curve there.
One of the things about splines is it doesn't actually have any way of rendering in this form. You've got to go, you can only see it in wireframe. And basically you create a skin on top of it, and that's the model you end up with. So to actually view it, you go to wireframe mode, or I've got it set up on the 4 views so I can have wireframe up in the corner.
Any questions on that? Okay. This won't render. You could bring this into Lightwave layout. It will not render. It's not a real object. It is nothing. Splines are tools that Modeler uses to create shapes, but they are not renderable entities on their own. So we have to do something to this to make it renderable. Just fill in the middle there. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so here's our basic curve shape. Now, again, the important thing to note here is that these are all connected by curves. They're all connected with splines. So then the next thing would be to actually turn these into polygons. And there's a couple different ways we can do that. Let's just go to an empty layer for 1 second, Ken, and just draw out any kind of open sketch path. One real quick way when you have a sketch path, again, this sketch path is a curve. Again, curves are not renderable in Lightwave. So one way to make this visible would just be to hit that Control D for freeze. And freeze turns it into a polygon. You notice it closes it up because it has to. You can't have an open polygon. So it closes it up. And again, this is now a polygon or a potato chip, either one. But this is now a polygon, and it would be visible. You would be able to see this. That's one way to turn a curve shape into a polygon, into something visible. Now the other way is to do a spline patch. Let's go back to the cage. And what Kenny's going to do is, if you take a look at this, we'll just use this simple one here. Let's just take a look at what we've got here. Here's one spline curve. Here's another. Here's another. Here's another. Here's another. So we've got a total of 5 spline curves. Everyone see that? And we've got 2 areas. Now this area here is bounded by this curve. And you can't just select this segment of the curve. You notice if he goes down to polygon and clicks on it, yeah, same thing here. Go up to pick the top one. It selects the whole curve. That's fine. So this is bounded, this area is bounded by this, 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 and that. And what Kenny's going to do is he's going to go and select them. And once we've got that area bounded, we can now do a spline patch. And go to the patch. You went to the multiply menu, and patch is right there in the middle menu. And you notice what it does is it actually connects these. It fills in polygons. And now we've got an actual visible object. Everyone see that? Everyone clear on what happened there? He's bounded that area, and now we've got visible polygons. Now, quick question. How did it decide how many polygons to put there? And the answer is when you hit that patch button, undo and head back. Okay, you'll notice it gives you, it says perpendicular parallel. You have two choices here. You can do knots or lengths. And generally, 10 by 10 means, you can think of it as roughly how many polygons it's going to put across. The difference between knots and lengths, essentially, is that lengths will do it evenly. Knots does it it will put more polygons where necessary. Do you ever use lengths, Kenny?
I have, yeah.
There are times you use both. Knots is generally a good way to start because it tends to distribute the polygons in a better way. But you notice if he changes this to 3 by 3, just puts less polygons in. And so you can determine the complexity of the mesh by changing those numbers, okay? You're seeing the problem already, which is this is a relatively simple model, and to go in and do this work all over the place, whew, boy, not a lot of fun. However, it's a good technique to use, and again, there are times when Ken would still use it and I'd still use it.